All right. Well, everybody, welcome to today's live stream. My name is Cyrus Jansen. I want to welcome you to what's going to be a very interesting live stream. We have so many breaking stories right now, and there are so many things going on in the world of geopolitics. Of course, we're looking at the China. We have so many things that we need to discuss in today. Now, the title of today's live stream is obviously going to be the fallout between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. This was, of course, big news a couple days ago. But this is what's been so interesting as being a geopolitical YouTuber is that it's almost hard to keep up with the news cycle because we have so many different things going on. And to help us get a hold of this, I'm actually going to bring in a good friend of the channel and someone that you guys know very well. And that is Alex from Reporterfy Media. Alex, how are you today?
Doing well, sir. Doing well.
Oh, fantastic. Alex, thanks for joining me on tonight's live stream. I always enjoy our conversations and, trying to break down the latest in geopolitical happenings around the world. It's tough, Alex, is it's hard to kind of keep up with the news cycle because, you and I wanted to talk about Elon and Trump, and then within 48 hours, it seems like, there's so many of the things that we can talk about. So we'll talk about a lot of things in today's stream, but kind of, let me know what your thoughts are, on this entire Elon and Trump, kind of breakdown. I mean, we saw these two. Let me just kind of set the stage here. I mean, it was very interesting when, in the early presidency, we saw Elon Musk very much he had unbelievable access to the White House. I mean, you've never seen that with a private citizen, in the Oval Office all the time, wearing the Make America Great Again hat. I mean, really Trump's right-hand man. And then now that has gone to a complete 180 with, really both of them kind of turning to social media. Elon coming out with some very bold claims against Donald Trump. I mean, we're going to break it all down in today's stream, but kind of give me your opening thoughts on what you think.
Yeah, friends don't do that. Friends don't normally air their laundry in public. If Elon did have an issue with Trump, he should have phoned him up. He had his direct line and said, "You know what, Don, we got a problem here. We need to talk about this." But he went nuclear on it. And I have to tell you, Trump kind of held back. He did say some things, of course, but he wasn't up in the ante here. And this does not make Musk look... I don't know. I have mixed opinions on this. I've heard it from other sources as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to have this chat tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Alex, do you think it's more of is it really like this big beautiful bill? I mean, is it really Elon Musk? Is he starting to see that, we've seen, Tesla, for example, has had some big problems, right? I mean, the stock is down quite a bit. It's been very up and down. I mean, it had a nice rally as well, but then of course, when this fiasco came out, the stock got hammered. I think a lot of pressure from the Tesla shareholders saying, "Hey, Elon, you need to come and really manage the ship," as opposed to getting involved in all this government stuff. We know he was very involved with the Doge effort, the Department of Government Efficiency. Do you think that that Elon was just worried about this bill? That Donald Trump was cutting out these EV subsidies?
Elon Musk has his hands in many businesses here, and Tesla is one of them. But this is a man that actually didn't mind departing with about $50 billion of his own cash when he stepped up and said, "You know what, we have to give, a way for people to get the message out." And you remember YouTube and a lot of these platforms were really hammering, a lot of people's speech.
Right.
So, this is a passionate guy. This is a guy that wants to make a difference in the world. He felt he was making a difference in the government. And I think, he saw these efforts with this BBB, and I don't think anything American that, labels anything BBB is good news to begin with,
right.
Whether it's the Build Back Better or the Build Back Bankrupt, what I call it, and the, the big, beautiful bill or whatever Trump calls it. So we have Elon Musk kind of, in one sense, saying, "Hey, you know what? I did all that work, and now it's what's it for? And is anybody listening?" And I think, this is how the Americans, they pass these bills. They do them in the dead of night. And he just felt, you know what? Maybe I should have been told about this, and I wasn't.
Right.
And we saw his reaction.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the underlying problem here as well, though, Alex, is that we're looking at it makes the United States government look very bad on the international stage. And this is kind of why the title of the stream is, Elon and Trump implodes, but, is China the real big winner here? I mean, it's interesting with this is, we're going to bring it back to China and look at this angle, because I think, obviously we know that Tesla is very involved in China. Over 50% of the cars made in that Shanghai Gigafactory. That's worldwide. I mean, so Elon is very close to China. He's trying to do business around the world. Like you said, he has his hand in many different ventures across the globe, and it's kind of an interesting one because it almost, I think, for many people, this split would have been inevitable. It's like, we know that Elon and Trump probably couldn't have gone the distance and that this was inevitable, but I think it really shows a lot of inefficiencies in the U.S. government. And it just, again, I'm just not a big fan of this administration right now. I'm not buying what they're trying to sell me. And I'm just not feeling very optimistic. I know I've been getting a little bit of heat on some platforms on Twitter, people saying, Cyrus, you're too anti-Trump. And I'm not really anti-Trump. It's more that I'm just a bit frustrated with the path that I see the United States going down. And I think, we can relate this back to the trade war, Alex. I mean, how does this set up with China now? I mean, let's maybe we can kind of pivot here to, the trade war, and where we've got these big negotiations going on between China and the United States. I mean, let's kind of get your macro views on that.
Yeah, the new energy vehicle market here has gone into hyperdrive. Just when you think it's going to slow down, I've seen nothing but nonstop promotion going on with these companies over the last 30 to 60 days here in China. Yeah. After the Shanghai Auto Show, and get this, the no-show by Tesla, that really kind of turns heads there, saying, well, are you too good for this show, or why aren't you here? And a lot of people had that question, but we move on and we see a lot of other companies that are still trying to evolve. The Europeans are still trying to make an attempt at this market.
Right.
This market is not a market that's going to go away.
No.
And Elon Musk knows that, whether it's, rebates, that are going to save his, bottom line is one thing. But, I was just recently talking to a gentleman that came in from Europe yesterday, 2 days ago. And he says he just doesn't understand the book value of what Tesla is trading at, and what all the other companies here, even in China, are trading at. And that's the thing. We see volatility in the market. We see when it happens to stocks like Tesla that, you wake up with one hell of a hangover with $150 billion ripped off your market cap in less than 24 hours. So, I mean, it's going to be in the benefit for China, because all China has to do is just put its head down, keep working, keep moving forward, and keep innovating. We have big companies like BYD here in China that have over 1 million employees. They didn't start out as car manufacturers. They started out as battery manufacturers, and they decided, let's continue to invest. I'm not sure if your viewers are aware that BYD is a monster company here in China with over 1 million employees. And of that, 105,000 of those employees are working directly in the research and development just for the company alone.
Yeah, no, I love those insights, Alex. You're spot on, because, and what's interesting, and I chat all the time, but for my viewers out there, I've been a little bit quiet on the YouTube channel. I've been traveling around the world and working on different projects. And what's really cool is I spent last week, I was actually in Azerbaijan. And so I was in this amazing country, and I'm actually got a couple of videos coming out specifically on Azerbaijan. So, the city of Baku, the capital, is is one of the largest port cities on China's Belt and Road Initiative. I mean, it's been a huge, amazing, asset and a huge benefit to the Belt and Road. But what's very interesting there, Alex, is I finally had a chance to drive a BYD car. They are illegal here in the United States, or I wouldn't say illegal, but let's say they're inaccessible, here in the United States, due to the tariffs and obviously the import, restrictions. But what's really interesting is I had a chance to, and this is what I like what you said. I want to pick up on one thing you said is, China just really needs to put their head down and keep moving forward and keep working hard. And I mean, we know that with Chinese people and the Chinese government, that seems to be like their default mode, is just put your head down, get to work, keep working hard. And I think what was really interesting is you go to, I went to BYD and I met with the owner of the dealership. This guy's very interesting, Alex. So get this. He actually has been to China many, many times. He actually went to China and said, we need BYD in Azerbaijan. So he actually used to do a lot of trade between Azerbaijan and China. He, and you can see this passion from this guy. I got a great interview with him coming out on the channel soon. It's amazing. So he, not only that, but he went to Xi'an and he actually opened a restaurant in Xi'an. And what he did and what it is it's called the Silk Road restaurant, and it has all of these dishes from different spots along the Silk Road. So food from Kazakhstan, from obviously Azerbaijan, from Uzbekistan, from all of these different regional cuisines. And he said it's been very popular with the locals. We have this whole kind of Silk Road theme. It's a very big thing. They actually do a lot of trade. So from Xi'an to Baku, you can get cargo in about 11 days. So that basically goes along the Silk Road, goes through Xinjiang, down through Kazakhstan, across the Caspian Sea over there to Baku. So it's pretty cool. But here's my main point, going back to your BYD, is that this gentleman had brought the dealership there, and they are absolutely crushing it. So the top selling model there in Azerbaijan from BYD is going for around $13,000 US. And I asked him, I said, what has this done to the auto industry in Azerbaijan? And he said, it's really interesting. My colleague actually lived in Boston for 9 years. He actually is a naturalized US citizen. So he had a lot of connections in the auto industry, having lived in the US for a long time. So about 5 years ago, we were importing tons of used cars from America. That was our whole business, Fords and GMs. We would get all of these 2-3-year-old used cars and we would ship them on containers and bring them over to Azerbaijan. Well, that market is completely gone, right? He's like, no, why would you buy a 3-year-old Ford car, for X amount of dollars? Probably a similar price point, 13, 14, probably, closer to 20, when you can get a brand new Chinese EV for 13,000. And so they're absolutely crushing it. So when you now are in, a country like Azerbaijan and a city of Baku, you have BYD cars are everywhere. Chang'an is another Chinese EV brand. I had a chance to go with them. They're actually the number one selling car as far as EV car. So I had a chance to meet with both of those dealerships and the directors. And so again, you kind of see these tangible benefits working with China. You start to see how China is changing the world on the international stage. And again, I think it's going to make, I think Elon almost, I think he realized as well, like, hey, I need to kind of get back to my game plan here, right? I mean, he's an incredible entrepreneur. He's an incredibly smart individual. You don't become the world's richest man by being stupid. I mean, he's a very, very bright guy. And I think what's going to be very interesting is to see him kind of go back to his business. And I think he's going to have to pivot closer to China. And I think we're probably going to see a lot more countries around the world pivoting closer to China as this trade war continues.
Yeah, we're going to see some consolidation, especially in the NEV market. You mentioned Chang'an. This is the home, Chongqing, of Chang'an here. Its headquarters here, and most of the manufacturing of the cars are made here. I think what we'll see here, and for the viewers, just so they can understand this, is that this is going to be a market that will be heavily consolidated here, probably in the next 12 to 18 months. There'll be some big names that you would assume would stay in there, but this is more like a BlackBerry Apple moment where, at one moment, Research in Motion, the company that was originally has the BlackBerry, were the leaders in the mobility field and for security, and they quickly lost that. So this is not going to happen overnight, but we're going to see a lot of these major manufacturers dragged out. Now, here's the flip side, and here's where China sits back and it says, okay, wait. We have government investment, that's true, but then so does the United States, of course, with subsidies and infrastructure. But the battery manufacturers here are not really competing against each other. BYD pretty much takes a hold of its own fleet, and then you have CATL or CATL or whatever you want to call it. They are a non-competitive battery manufacturer where they will go in there and they will support new automobile companies. So it's not, one for himself, the other for himself, and let's battle to the death. So there are companies here, and no one in China wants some of the other manufacturers to go under, and some of them actually save them, whether it's to just transfer some of the R&D. Now, where does that bring us in 18 months from now? Well, that's going to be a different story. And here's something that I'm going to say on this live stream tonight.
Tee it up.
Is I think we are going to see a BYD and a Tesla collaborate on a vehicle here. And
Ooh,
I feel that's going to happen probably within the next 12 to 18 months. What that car is going to look like, I'm not sure. Who will be promoting it? Well, I think both manufacturers will. If Mr. Musk is as smart as we allow him to be, without regulations, I mean, and he might go back from this scenario that he's put himself in and say, wait a minute, who is really behind me here?
Right.
Is America behind me? Burning my cars down, ripping 150 billion off my market cap, and me just wanting to be passionate about the market? Or is my factory that's sitting there in Shanghai? And that's something I want to give the viewers something to think about, because this is price points. If we see American manufacturer Tesla collaborate with a Chinese manufacturer, BYD, this is a massive game changer for the market, and that will definitely rattle the market.
Yeah, I mean, I like so we've put it out there first. So Alex, you're calling it here in June 2025. You know that's what's going to happen. I like that call. I mean, to be honest, that's something that I think you and I talked about on an earlier live stream, where when we were looking at this Trump presidency and where when he started and kind of what were the goals with this. I mean, we knew that Trump would be tough on China. I mean, he campaigned on that, right? He talked about the trade deficit. He talked about tariffs. I mean, this is not a surprise. I mean, you and I were well aware of that. And I think, a lot of people in the market knew. I mean, this is exactly what Trump talked about. But I was hoping that there would be a little bit more of a strategic partnership. For example, I mean, like you said, like I said, you can't get BYD cars here in the United States. But what if you do have a collaboration and of some sort, and I think that would be the win-win. I mean, on this YouTube channel, Alex, we're all about win-win partnerships. I mean, like you said, CATL or CATL, the number one battery company in the world. I mean, they're the Chinese. The reason that they are so dominant with the electrical vehicle industry is because of the battery, right? It's the battery technology. Chang'an, when I was there in Azerbaijan, I was looking at their model. Their basic model, it goes from 30% charge to 80% charge, within 30 minutes, and that's because of the battery technology. So, I mean, your Tesla, it does not charge that fast. I mean, only on the supercharger, but still not nearly as fast as that. And I mean, and I think CATL, I mean, they're having these, I mean, it's going to be very quickly within a few years that, you're going to be able to charge 50% of your car within 5 minutes. It's going to be very comparable
it's here.
Yeah, it's already there, right?
It's already there. Yeah.
I thought so. Yeah. So, I think it's, it's exactly right. So it's already there. It's that's why. So, the thing that we need to really look at, and I want our viewers to understand, is that China's not going anywhere, right? These EVs are only going to get better. Like you said, I thought we were at a point where things were going to slow down. I thought that, just when I thought that the EV industry was, maybe not going to be as robust, it's like, no, there's more R&D, there's more efforts, there's more. And I'm excited to get back on the ground. I think, happy to announce I'm about a week away. So a week away from flying back to China and getting back there on the ground. So looking forward to obviously meeting up with you, Alex, at some point. We're probably going to meet up in Chongqing, record some videos together, or elsewhere, wherever our travels take us. But yeah, I think it's, this would be an amazing thing. I would love to see. I think that would be a true win-win for the United States as well. Imagine if BYD were to collaborate with Tesla and they go to Detroit and actually open a factory there, providing American jobs, but bringing the good Chinese technology that, like we've pointed out in this live stream, is so vital and honestly can't be replicated or replaced. And that's why, you need to be working with China.
Huawei was on that mission. They were trying to do that with major manufacturers in the United States. They were trying to get in there to save Motorola. They were trying to get in there to save Nokia. And they were trying to save the telecom companies, AT&T, a lot of these companies, by supplying them with 3G, 4G at the time.
Right.
But we saw what happened with that, and that unraveled not very well with one of the major managers of the company, or corporate people of the company, that was put in prison for a couple of years or under
Yeah.
house arrest. So, to see the positive side of this here, I think both countries have kind of said, okay, wait a minute. United States wants the golden age back. They can have it back. We are at a remarkable time. I know the new energy vehicle is a hot topic. Unfortunately, we can't deviate away from it because it's every day of our lives here and every day of people's lives in North America as well. It is a hot topic, whether it's, the Trump administration talks about steel tariffs, moving them up. Well, that affects automobiles.
Right.
If they're talking about research and development, that affects automobiles. If they're talking about subsidies, so it all plays its part. But, there's something else that I want to say, that, the average consumer, and this is where it changes. I don't know what our average consumer, or, the average age of our people watching live streams, but I can tell you, anybody that is getting into a new car here in China, and remember, this is a population of 1.5 to 1.6 billion, with 19 million babies born every year. The youth always wants to find something trendy. They get into cars now, and when they open the doors to the cars, they do know who the battery manufacturers are. They also ask for other things. Is a battery swap. Battery swap means that they are buying a car and not have to worry about the battery for the next 20 years, because they can swap them out just like they do at a service station. They go in, they buy a bag of Doritos, buy a Coca-Cola, switch the battery, and they have a new battery for the, pretty much guaranteed for 20 years. The other thing that the youth are looking at now is safety. How can this car save me? Well, it's equipped with LiDAR. LiDAR technology uses the Baidu GPS system that is more accurate. It can tell a car in fog with massive rain that you can't see, with zero visibility out of your window, but these cars can see 2 kilometers in front. They can also, when the youth get into the car, they want zero gravity seats. Can my friend have a massage? Can I change the onboard lighting? Do I have connection to 5G connection? That is pretty much all the car manufacturers now include a free 5G connection as long as you own the car. I mean, how great is that? You want to, so it's stuff like that. It's onboard gridding, it's offboard gridding. These youths are used to smart cars, not dumb cars, and that's what they're going to be buying.
Yeah,
that's just where the trend goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm really excited to share this video that I recorded in Azerbaijan, because I was just so happy to have access to these cars for the first time. And Alex, I was in the Chang'an showroom, and I saw the I believe it was the Avatar 12 model, but
they call it the 1-2, actually.
Oh, the one. Oh, nice. Oh, the 1-2. Okay, so the Avatar 1-2. Thank you. I'm not as savvy on my Chinese EVs.
Sorry,
because,
man.
No, I don't get the access to them. But don't worry, we're going to be riding them in Chongqing together.
Absolutely.
Maybe we go together to the Chang'an factory in Chongqing.
Promise.
And make some videos together. But no, it was amazing. Is you have a price point of 56,000 US. And I mean, it's incredible. I've never seen a car as advanced as that. I mean, even, there's no mirrors on the sides. They're actually just little cameras on the side. And then you have a full dashboard with all of the cameras inside. And the guy's like, yeah, just push this button. You get a full, like you said, full body massage, like the S-shaped massage. So it's, getting your bum, your lower back, your upper back, your shoulders. And it's interesting, because I said, a car like this, you look at the quality of it, the leather seats, the interior, the driving steer, the race car steering wheel. I mean, this is a well over $100,000 car in the United States.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can find something similar to that, like your high end Mercedes. I mean, there's a high end Mercedes electric car here that has all of those bells and whistles, and it's about $250,000. That's the difference. I mean, you can find that technology in the US, is just it's literally $250,000 as opposed to this one, which is 56,000. So there was a lot of interest in that, and even my guy that I was with, who actually helped me organize the logistics of my trip. He's from Serbia, and he said, "Gosh, these price point is amazing. You know what? I might make a trip out of this. Maybe I buy an AV in Baku, and I'll just make a road trip for a few days, drive it back to Belgrade, and just because I can't get that even in Belgrade. The prices are a little bit higher. So such an attractive point in Azerbaijan. But I think we're kind of going off on a little bit, talking about EVs. I know you and I are very passionate about that. We're talking about this. I want to talk a little bit about. I want to shift here, Alex, to the next thing is going to be the trade war, and kind of where we're at with this right now. I mean, we've seen. I do want to bring up a couple of recent articles that I find that very interesting. I mean, this is on Asian Times. You can see, Xi calls Trump's bluff and wins time and time again. Even this morning, I saw this on Forbes. Trump should get the hint that Xi is just not that into him. I mean, what an amazing, article on Forbes that just published a couple of days ago. Let's get your thoughts on, on this, Alex. Let me tee this up. So we're in the middle of this 90-day pause, right? We've seen, so everybody that we're all up to speed. Obviously, April 2nd was Liberation Day. Trump announces these massive tariffs on every country in the world. At one point, tariffs go up to 145% against China, which obviously is an embargo. I mean, that's an embargo. People are not going to be importing any goods, from China into the United States. All of a sudden, that becomes very, very clear with the U.S. markets. They start to tank the U.S. economy. Red flags are going off like, hey, this is really going to hit us hard. And Trump all of a sudden pivots in less than 30 days, pivots to the point where we're at a point now where I believe it's 30% is the tariffs. And, obviously China still has a lot of restrictions, for example, rare earth minerals, which we'll get into a little bit later. But, now we're in the middle of this negotiation, and, let me know your thoughts. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. We haven't spoken on this. So what are your thoughts now as we're in this pause and kind of they're going through this negotiations?
It's reputation. It really is the reputation. It's kind of like going to the store where they say we got 50% off. Just kidding. And then putting the prices back up when you get to the front door.
Right.
So, it's a reputation thing. And we've all heard, never cry wolf, right?
Right.
And no one's buying it anymore. He can say 20, 30, 40, 50, 500%, whatever. Bone crushing tariffs. No, it's just not going to happen. Once again, China's held restraint again. They want to get down to business. They just want to get going. I mean, we've come out of this pandemic, probably a couple of years ago here. People are eager to work. They want to get back to work. They want to get things moving on here. These factories want to get, buzzing again. People want the buzz back. They don't want the BBB, and I think, in that bill, I'm not going to deviate from what your question was, but that plays a significant importance on, what's going to be going on here in trade in that bill. There's a lot of things that they are benefiting from, or allegedly benefiting from, saying that, hey, we're going to be able to keep these tariffs in, this 10, 20, 30% mainline tariffs in, which will help pay back, this $2 trillion BBB bill that we want to enforce. And I'm going to tell you now, Walmart's already went forward and they said, you know what? Yeah, we're raising prices already. So the consumer, again, I had a little look at real estate prices in the United States. And I have to tell you, I'm absolutely shocked. I don't pay attention to U.S. real estate prices, right?
Yeah,
I'm paying attention to, I know. So I'm paying attention to Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
We see some moderate moves each year, a little bit here, 5% maybe. And, not flat lines or any decreases, but just kind of like, steady move up. And then I'm seeing the cost of houses in the United States and even Canada. And I'm just sitting there going, how is this inventory moving? Have people gone from a 20-year mortgage to a 30-year or 35 or 40-year mortgage now to pay off these homes? I'm not convinced that this, this trade is going to benefit anyone here, or even putting tariffs on these businesses. A lot of these businesses are hurting. And here's the thing. We only hear about Walmart. We only hear about, the big box stores, the Amazons, all that. No, they're okay. They can weather storms. But
Right.
how many small businesses in the last 60 to 90 days got caught in a 45, 100, or 145 tariff? And they are risking now this deadline. This deadline
Yeah.
is going to drop how many more days? Another maybe 50 days, something like that.
Yeah. I've got a bold prediction about this 90 days thing. I think what I want to remember Alex, at the start of the year, what was the biggest China story that was going on was the TikTok ban, right? Remember Trump, remember everything was like, you must sell TikTok. Of course, you saw the viral clip of the TikTok CEO getting grilled on Capitol Hill. You have Tom Cotton, one of the most racist US senators, are you
Thanks.
Chinese?
You said it.
Yeah. I mean, let's call a spade, right? Are you Chinese? Do you work for the Chinese party? It's like, no, sir, I'm Singaporean. But are you Chinese? No, I'm Singaporean. Do you work for the Chinese government? No, I'm Singaporean. For gosh sakes, I'm from Singapore. Like, do you not understand that? Actually, my number one video of all time on this YouTube channel is that clip. We published that as a YouTube short. I think it got over 40 million views. It was ridiculous. Because it's so infuriating. And actually the title I said, U.S. Senator doesn't know the difference between Singapore and China, because it's very embarrassing. But what's funny, Alex, is at the beginning of the year, all the rage was the TikTok ban, right? Everything was about TikTok and it has to sell within 90 days. And guess what happened? 90 days came and gone. You have not heard about TikTok in any U.S. news cycle at all. And so it continues to operate in the United States. It continues to go on. And my prediction is that we are when this 90-day clause happens with the U.S. and China, I think you're going to just basically see no news. I think you're just going to. I think it's going to continue at this point where we are with the current. With the current levels, right? I think you've got basically you've got, I think, what is it? It's a 30% tariff right now on Chinese goods. 30% you can work with, right? Yes, it's still, it's obviously, and I think it's really funny is it still baffles me here, Alex, is that I live here in Las Vegas. And we have members of the community here that I connect with. And I'm baffled by this, Alex, is that they still do not understand the tariffs. They go, Cyrus, it's amazing. The Trump tariffs generated $22 billion in revenue. And I said, yes, Americans have paid $22 billion in taxes to the US government. And they're like, what do you mean? I thought China pays the tax. I'm like, for gosh sakes, dude, you're a dentist. Like, you're a doctor. You're a smart individual. Like, how do you not understand how this works? And so I think it's amazing that people don't get that. But yes, it is an additional tax. And I do want to highlight. We've got a couple of super chats. I'm going to Trevor. Always appreciate your support, and Lao Dao Shao right as well. I want to we'll give you guys a shout out a little bit, but I want to answer what you said is how many small businesses has this been affected? This is a really interesting insight. I have a friend here in Las Vegas. He's in construction, and he said, and there's been a couple of interesting observations. So he said, number one is, the cost, like you said, the cost of these things, Alex, right? You're looking at the cost of the real estate. Try building a house or remodeling your house, getting plumbing fixtures, getting the basic things that outfit a house. All of these things have skyrocketed. My father's in the construction industry, and I joked to him, I'm like, hey, Dad, you got to make sure that when you're doing these prices, that you have a variant, you have a variable like price, in your contract. You can't lock in these prices for like, let's say faucets or, sinks and things like that, because these will all go up as a result of this tariff war. I mean, you go to a Home Depot, which is our hardware store here in the United States, and so many of those products are coming from China, and, they're at amazing price points because of that. Great quality, great price points, and all of those are going up through the roof. But what's interesting is I have another friend here. He started a business. He started a pool toy company. So he's making pool toys, and they're plastic and they're foam. And where do you think they're made? They're made in China. So all of a sudden, he's freaking out, and he calls me and he's like, Cyrus, I have a shipment of 1,000 orders on a boat right now from China. This is about a month ago, so it was right in the middle before this deal. And he said, "What's going to happen with this 145% tariff?" And he's like, I can't pay that 145%. That eats up my entire profit margin. Like I'm screwed. I basically I can't do this." And I said, "Well, you know what's amazing here, bud?" I said, "This is your side hustle, right? You've ordered 1,000 of these pool units. Okay, you're going to probably, worst case scenario, you lose, a few $1,000s on this, right? I mean, not ideal, but you can afford to take that loss." I said, "Imagine the US companies that's your only business. Like, let's imagine you scaled this up and you're making 6 figures a month selling pool toys, right? There's many businesses like that in the US. Very successful business importing from China. Now, all of a sudden, your entire revenue, your entire business has been turned overside. And so I think that's ultimately why I think we were, you and I were predicting this, that I'm not trying to toot our own horn. I'm just saying, it's just inevitable that this trade war and the way that things were going, it's not sustainable. I mean, and I think that's why ultimately you had to pivot. And I think that's why, when I bring up those articles, I mean, this is a really good article. I want you guys to, to follow this one. She calls Trump's bluff and wins time and time again. Go ahead and look this up on Asian Times. Just type that in. Fantastic article, because it really breaks down, what many countries around the world are doing right now, Alex. It talks about Japan, talks about Korea, and why other countries are basically, like you said, I love your analogy saying it's like this: you go to the store 50% off, but then you get to the counter, oh no, that was just a joke. And so it's about credibility, it's about your image. And so now you have countries around the world saying, you know what, I think we're just going to wait. But I think we're going to wait. Interesting thing in that article, it talks about that the impact of this is actually bigger than COVID-19. And they said because during COVID-19, you had all of the monetary policies. Everybody was adding liquidity. Everybody was printing money. Basically all the central banks around the world were moving in the same direction. And now the biggest problem, as you know this, I mean, you're a business guy, you're a market guy, is uncertainty. Right? We have many companies, right, Alex? I mean, you work in the finance. I mean, you're one of the smartest guys I know in finance, and you have companies saying we can't issue guidance for the next 2 quarters because we don't know. Well, how are you gonna how's that stock gonna do if you can't issue guidance? For investors and for for retail investors, institutional investors, no guidance. We don't want to do guidance because we have no idea what's going on. So you have this uncertainty, which is very, very crazy.
I also think 7 million Americans that operate businesses on TikTok in the United States have uncertainty as well. And to throw into that, we have tariffs on top of that. So it's a double-edged sword. I don't know how it's going to work itself out. I actually believe a lot of these companies that do trade on the S&P 500 are phantom companies, that they have a market value. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have, the ability to generate profit. Boeing is under extreme pressure here to deliver. It may have orders, but its balance sheet looks terrible. And if anything happens in Boeing over the next 18 months, whether it's, some disruptions in parts, once again, it's going to have its back against the wall, and the American taxpayers are going to have to come in to save the day again. Yeah. So that's what we see here. I'm going to just give you an image anyway for just so you know. You don't have to put it on the screen yet, but
sure.
It's just right at the end of our chat. It's going to be about my video that's coming out tonight, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
it's about Tesla, and it talks about and I'm going to press the button as soon as we're done the live stream here to promote the video on the Reportify Media channel. But it's is Tesla broke? And that's a question. Is it on the road to bankruptcy? That'll be on my channel after. It'll be interesting. It's more of kind of me. I won't give too much away, but let's just say I walk into about 3,000 Tesla competitors here in China, and you make the decision, is Tesla bankrupt? Yeah. And it's something that, a lot of these companies that we see that are trading are very delicate, Cyrus.
Yeah.
They can quickly go away. And we, just look at the restaurant business in the last couple of years. That's changed dramatically. Yeah. You're a guy that travels a lot. You go to hotels a lot. Mm-hmm. Do you know how many hotels the Marriott Group has consolidated under their umbrella now? I
Yeah.
mean, a huge amount. I didn't know the St. Regis was under the Marriott umbrella. I mean, it's,
Right. Right.
so many hotels went to the wall here. And this is something that, let's open our eyes here and see what potentially could come here in the United States. Thanks for putting that up on the screen anyway. But guys,
Yeah.
yeah,
My
you can watch
pleasure.
that on my channel after.
Yeah,
Cool.
fantastic. Yeah, great video. I'm looking forward to watching that, Alex. I always enjoy your videos, and
Thank you.
and also just a little side note, Alex, you know what? I love Alex's channel because he brings us to a lot of trade shows, and just cycle through his last recent videos because so much of it is, hey, I'm at the the Canton Fair here in Guangzhou, and you have a great presence, Alex. You have a great energy that you bring that really shows. You really feel like, hey, I'm coming to the Canton Fair with Alex. You really feel like you're along for the journey. But it's
It
more,
was
it's
it,
more.
it was you that pushed me into it, man, and that's
Yeah,
why I kept it up.
dude, I think
Yeah.
you do. I think you do a great job. I think you do a really
Thanks.
good job. And it's more. And this is what I'm excited for, guys, as well. Is I'm a week away, so the 14th of June, I'm flying with my family. We're going back to China for the summer. We're going to be there for almost 2 months. Very excited. We're going to be based in Guangzhou. That's where my wife is originally from. So we've rented a serviced apartment that we're going to stay in. We're super excited, but I'm excited because we're bringing this YouTube channel back to China. I'm going to be collaborating with Alex. We're going to be going to factories. We're going to be interviewing expats on the ground. We're going to be, bringing you those insights that you're not going to find on traditional Western media. That's how we've built up these YouTube channels, because we were trying to give you the real insights into China that you really want to see. And I think what's interesting here, Alex, is there's such a need for this, right? There's such a need for people to understand the truth here. And before I forget, I do want to give a huge shout out to our amazing supporters here. So Ladosha. I hope I said that right. Ladosha Wright, powerful information and observations. Ladosha, thank you so much for your support, your super chat. I appreciate you. And Trevor Norman, huge supporter of the channel and a long time. This is we're going to get. How do you both see the Trump Xi talks turning out? I have a good take on that. We're going to get into that in a little bit. Trevor, thank you for that. And I think we have. I'm excited to chat about this, and Alex, I'm kind of champing at the bit to get back to China. I'm very excited to return back, record some walk and talks, and just very, very happy there. And we just got a new super chat from one of my favorites. This is Sean Fu. I've had him on the channel twice. Sean, thank you for being here tonight, my man. If you guys are not following Sean, you need to. He does a great job breaking down. A lot of, basically every day almost, he's got a new video out breaking down these great trends going on. Great finance guy from Singapore. Very, 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 very good. Thank you, Sean, for being here tonight. I wager it's going to get even worse than Russia asset confiscation. Tariff war affects everyone. No hiding from U.S. economic statecraft. Even G7 pals are getting whacked. Couldn't have said it better. I mean, again, This is what Sean Fu does. Is he does a great job breaking down these events. And I mean, I think what we really need to understand, Alex, is just looking at it very rationally. And I'm going to bring up a graph that I think is very, very important here. And this is something that I'm making a video about this, that we're having a full breakdown of this on my channel. But I want you to just take a look at this. Key players in the rare earth industry. Now, I know this is hard to look at, okay, because it's such a detailed graph. You need to really zoom in a little bit. But what I want you to just really focus on is you can see that there's a few parts of the graph here. So when you actually look at the middle section of this graph, okay, this is basically the major miners and the refiners. So you can see that there's quite a lot of Chinese flags, but let's be fair. I mean, there's a lot of Australian flags, even the United States. There's a lot of other countries involved in the mining. So actually rare earth metals is not that rare. That was an article that was published earlier this week saying that, actually these rare earths can be mined in countries all over the globe. But what I want to bring your attention to here is the bottom part of that graph, which is, of course, is the intermediary processors. And you can see that there is not a single other country other than China that is doing this. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where the leverage in the trade war is at. And this is why China has pun intended, a massive trump card, in this one. And it's a very interesting one. Again, we're going to be breaking down this in one of my future videos that's going to be coming out in a couple of days, where we're specifically talking about the rare earth industries, why China has such a dominant position, why it really has a lot of leverage in this trade war. Alex, I saw an interesting stat. They said that the United States has invested about $1 billion in the domestic mining of these rare earths. So about $1 billion, which I don't think is actually a lot of money when you consider that China has invested about $50 billion in its domestic microchip industry. So, we're looking at two countries with two weak points. For example, China does not have the same standard of microchips that the United States does. Let's rewind the clocks maybe 5 years ago. So what did they do? They said, let's double down, let's do more research, let's do more innovation. We are going to prioritize this industry, $50 billion into that industry. You see, companies like Huawei, which are very quickly closing the gap. I think within the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to probably see China debut its own lithography machine. Currently, there's only one company in the world, it's ASML from the Netherlands, that has that advanced lithography machine that can actually process the microchips. And that's something I want people to understand with microchips as well, is that there is not one country in the world that can produce a microchip by itself. So whether it's the United States or Korea, Japan, you look at region like Taiwan, which we know the region of Taiwan is very, very powerful as far as their microchips. I mean, 90% of the world's most advanced microchips are coming from Taiwan. But I mean, you look at NVIDIA, which is obviously America's top one. It's the microchip is so interesting because it's a collaborative effort, right? You need countries and regions around the world collaborating together to advance this. Like I said, you need that machine from the Netherlands. They're the only company in the world that produces it. But I think China is doing a good job, and they're very quickly closing this gap. I mean, we've seen since we've started our YouTube channels, I mean, the how much that reduction has been, right? Let's say that the US was at 5 nanometer size and China was at 20. Well, now it's at, China's at 5 and the US is at 3. I mean, that gap is closing very, very quickly. And I think somebody earlier in the chat said, within 10 years, all of the microchips are going to be coming from China. And, we can talk about microchips and all of this thing, but I wanted to bring up that rare earth one because I think that one's important, Alex. But let me know your thoughts. I mean, we're recording a little bit early. Today is Sunday, and I know we have, I believe, the United States and China representatives are meeting in London tomorrow to kind of hash out a deal, potentially talk about something. The rare earths is going to be a main talking point. So that's why I brought up that graph. But let me know your thoughts as well.
Yeah, rare earth is something that's been tossed around a lot. I think a lot of the reason why there wasn't a lot of money put into mining this stuff in the United States was the regulations, the environmental regulations. Now
Right.
with this administration, it seems very bullish on that. But these things take time. It's like starting up a jet engine and just, to get it off the runway is another thing that's been sitting dormant for decades. So it's
Right.
going to take some time. But once again, this is another opportunity for the United States of America to team up with China when they both know that what they both need. There is one nation, though, that I think a lot of people have kind of ruled out of this equation, and that is Russia. Russia is a very vast country. It's large in size. It's massive in minerals. It's amazing in gas. It's a country that is full of natural resources. And who is its number one trading partner right now? That's
Right.
China. There's a strategy going on there. There's a reason for that.
Right.
This is where China can put politics aside. Now, viewers might say, well, wait a minute. How can they put, politics aside? Russia's involved in a conflict.
Right.
Well, currently, so are other major countries around the world involved in conflict. Our government, our Canadian government's involved in conflicts. The American government gets involved in conflicts. I'm
I
sure
don't
the viewers will say it. Go ahead.
I don't know if my government's ever not been involved in a conflict. I mean, that's kind of
I
what
was
we
trying.
do.
I was trying to be polite here.
Yeah.
I was trying. I was trying to skirt around, and I was waiting for somebody in the comments to fire up, but you did first. So okay,
Yeah. I'll take that one. I'll take that one.
okay. So the thing is that now you have a country that really knows what relationships are all about. I mean, that economy in Russia, I just recently visited Russia a couple of weeks
I
ago.
was gonna bring that up. I didn't know if
Yeah,
you wanted to talk about that, but
let's
I'm
bring it
happy
up
to.
later.
Okay, sure.
When you're ready, let's bring it up.
Okay,
But
perfect.
I'll just finish my bit on this rare earth here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that graph that you brought up, it's not surprising that there's China all over there. I mean,
Yeah, I was supposed to
it's a
bring that up for
country that,
everybody just one
yeah.
more time for.
And another thing I think our viewers have to understand is a lot of this is not private enterprise. This is not guys going down there with mining claims, with a lot of companies out there trying to find this or that. People ask me, how do all these roads and these buildings and this infrastructure gets paid? China
Right.
needs 20, 30, 40 billion. They sell some resources. They sell some gold. They sell some silver. They sell
Right.
some, natural resources. And that money actually goes back into the funding of what is good for people: new airports, train stations, roads. So that's kind of how they do it.
Yeah.
Over to you.
No, I think so to kind of answer Trevor's question and what we're going to negotiate here is I think what I look at here is I look at what Donald Trump is saying and what he's doing, and many of you might have seen this, but there was Donald Trump sent out a tweet or a post on Truth Social at 2:17 a.m. Talking and so a lot of people looked at that time and said, "Wow, what president is tweeting at 2 o'clock in the morning?" And he basically said something along the lines of, I like Xi Jinping. I always have liked Xi Jinping. He's a great man, but man, he's really tough to negotiate with. And, and so it's kind of, I do want to kind of get into the Chinese angle, because I think what's really been interesting about this, Alex, is I think that you've seen the country of China has certainly, united themselves. And I think that, many people are in this for the long run. I mean, one of the things that we need to really understand, I had a chance to interview Sean Ryan, who's a, 4-time best-selling author with books on China. I've interviewed him multiple times on the podcast. But, he said, Cyrus, what's really important is to understand the 100 years of humiliation and what China went through before. And basically, this is a kind of a bullying again and saying, look, you need to succumb to us, right? You need to listen to what we will tell you to do. And what's very interesting is, people don't forget, like, how did China respond, right? China, Trump said 100% tariffs. China responded with 100% tariffs. It went up to 145. China responded with 145. So China has been retaliating or basically meeting the U.S. with their trade war. And so you have this escalation. So it was constant escalation. The United States pushes, China pushes back. US pushes, China pushes back. So it's not that China is giving up. It's very much saying, look, we are in this for the long run. And I think what's very funny is you have some signs early on from Donald Trump that that he was desperate to make a deal, right? He for example, he came out and said, I wish that China would call me, that way we can tame this trade war down, right? We need to take the tensions down a little bit. So China, why don't you pick up the phone and give me a call? Well, as soon as you say that, you've essentially showed your cards, right? You know that the Chinese are looking at that very intently. Again, you're sending out a tweet at 2 a.m. saying Xi Jinping's a great guy, but he's tough to negotiate with. Well, I don't think Xi Jinping's awake at 2 o'clock in the morning wondering what Donald Trump's doing, right? I mean, they're, again, like one of the things you pointed out earlier in the stream, Chinese very much keep their head down, get to work. We have a plan. We're going to execute the plan. We're going all in on EVs. We're going all in on AI. We're going all in on microchips. By the way, we're going all in on infrastructure because we're building, incredible high-speed rails and airports and everything that our society needs for the future. Oh, by the way, we're having a reduction in workforce, right? We have an aging population. Within the next 20 years, China's going to lose 200 million workers because of retirement and death, etc. So what are we doing? Well, we're building dark factories. We're building factories that we don't even turn the lights on because they're all automated. They're all robots. Humanoid robot technology, China's leading the way. Drone technology, China's leading the way. So you see these industries that are being supported by the Chinese government, and you see the direction that they're going. And so I think, I mentioned that earlier, and I brought up that graphic for a specific reason. China does have a very strategic upside in the sense of this rare earths. They have the processing. You can't go anywhere else for that. What's going to happen on Monday? I don't think you're going to see a big breakthrough. I don't think you're going to see some magical deal that's going to happen. I think that you're going to see a bit of caution from the Chinese. I think you're going to see a bit of caution from the U.S. administration. I think what we're going to see is you're going to see maybe the Chinese will start to allow some exportation of some rare earths. Okay, we're going to allow you guys to have some, but what's interesting? I saw another article on the Wall Street Journal, Alex, this week that said U.S. auto industry. So this is the interesting one. It's these certain magnets. So it's these magnets that they're needed for the auto industry, and that's where the rare earths are going. But they're actually looking at American companies are actually looking up at setting up operations in China. That way that they can get access to those rare earth minerals. So how about that for a headline? This was a major story on the Wall Street Journal. I'm going to try to bring that up, but Wall Street Journal. And yes, and here it is. I'm going to just bring this
amazing.
up.
It's actually
yeah.
It's amazing when you think about it.
It's pretty incredible, actually, right? I mean, when you think about how that happened. So I'm gonna let me see if I can bring this article up for everybody. But yeah, I mean, I think. Do you think any breakthrough that we're gonna see, Alex? Are you looking for a massive breakthrough on Monday when the U.S. and China meet?
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
No. Not at all. And
I think.
I mean that in the best way. I would like for them to not have this standoff. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. I did find that article. I'm just uploading this to our our back end studio here, and we're going to bring this up. This is a really interesting article. You guys can just Google search this, but this is basically from the Wall Street Journal, published a few days ago. Automakers race to find workaround to China's stranglehold on rare earth magnets. Major manufacturers, fearful that they will have to shut down assembly lines, consider moving some parts production to China. So again, I mean, that's an amazing headline when you look at U.S. auto manufacturers are actually considering moving some of their operations to China just to get around these restrictions. And if that doesn't show you who has the leverage in this trade war, I don't know, what will. So that's a very interesting one.
It's mind-blowing. And I think the average person, again, they don't recognize this until it gets to the store shelf when you're about to purchase something and you find that is either out or the price has skyrocketed. And we saw that during the pandemic. And I think that comment about that this could be worse than the pandemic, it's totally accurate.
Yeah,
absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Get a new super chat from Lao Shimazaki. Lao Shimazaki, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for all of our super chats tonight, all of our members to the channel, for both Alex and I. I mean, we love doing these streams, guys. We love coming together. Alex, thanks so much for coming on. I mean, I do, you and I have been traveling a lot lately, so I do want to talk about this because, I did share my travels to Azerbaijan. I do have a couple videos coming out, guys, where I'm actually visit the BYD plant, or sorry, not plant, but the BYD dealership. I get a chance to test drive the BYD car in Azerbaijan, which was great. But, I also want to share kind of a little interesting direction on the channel, an unusual video for me, but it's going to be sharing about the Belt and Road Initiative and what China's doing, and the port of Baku, Alex, which has doubled in size in the last 2 years because of all of these shipments coming from China. And, there's 140 million people within a 1,000-kilometer radius. So it's again, once you remove yourself from the U.S. propaganda bubble of the CNN, the Fox News, where, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I always remember growing up, Alex, my mother's from Germany, and that was the one thing that really pained her from living in the U.S. It's like, you can never get any international news. We just don't understand what's happening outside of our own borders, like you do in Europe, other countries and regions around the world, much more switched on. But Alex, you went to a country that is high on my bucket list. You went to Moscow. You sent me a nice photo there from Red Square. I mean, I'm very interested in learning about this, and I actually do have some interviews coming up about Ukraine. I mean, we have Patrick Lancaster, who's been a guest on both of our channels. We've done a live stream with Patrick. I mean, he's on the grounds there. But I want to get your thoughts. I mean, I know you were in Russia, so kind of let's pivot there and tell everybody a little bit about your journey. And what did you learn? And I think a lot of people have written off Russia, obviously, in the West, but what was your experience like?
Yeah, this is it's a little complex. I mean, I actually haven't really talked to anybody about this, and I think this is kind of and I appreciate the moment because this is the first time I've actually kind of aired this out.
Yeah.
Um, I was invited to Russia, and it had a lot to do with my coverage, and of course, coverage of other YouTubers like yourself who are open-minded to hearing, both sides of a conflict. And a lot of it had to do with my friendship with Patrick Lancaster. I was invited to Russia, but it did require a lot of security clearance because, well, it wasn't just me going into Moscow. It was actually me going down to the front line in the Donbass region. Um, just give you the fast forward story of it. It's um, I got my visa, headed to Moscow. That wasn't easy, as you know, that most airways over Europe have pretty much canceled flights to Russia,
Right.
vice versa. So those air ranges are closed to both nations. But
Right.
landing in Moscow, a city of 12 million, looking at the arrival boards and not seeing one single flight from Europe was quite a surprise from what I was used to when I
Right.
visited many years ago. Pivoting to my right, I noticed that there were no ATM machines, but there were cash currency machines
Hmm.
and a new banking logo that I never saw, a new card system, a new banking system. It's like you land on a different planet. Also noticed the mobile phone card suppliers were rapidly changed. Things were not necessarily easy, but to my surprise, heading into Moscow, the city looked very vibrant. I noticed something else while I was there, that the GPS system was shut off.
Hmm.
And I asked, why is the GPS system shut off? And they said, well, incoming drones. I said, incoming. I
Wow.
said, incoming. I said, okay, how long has this been going on for? Haven't heard about it in the Western media. Months now, Alex. Okay, got it. Um, got to my hotel, met with security team. The security team then said to me, okay, we're going to take you down to the Donbass region. There's going to be 15 checkpoints on the way down there. Be ready at any time. They could be 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hour, whatever. Coming back and being here and seeing what's happened over the last few weeks, I can understand now why those checkpoints were in place.
Right.
Very clear. Unfortunately, some things got through those checkpoints. But heading down there it took me 21 hours. Now, people would say, why don't you just fly down there? Every single airport since 2014, 15, and 16 have been destroyed by the Ukraine government and military in that area, whether it's Donetsk, Luhansk airports, Mariupol airport, or whatever. They no longer function. Driving on the road down there, I will tell you, the viewers, one thing, that this is a country that its highways are full of artillery, not going away back towards Moscow, but going forward
Hmm.
into the
Interesting.
region. So arriving there, we then arrived at the security control. They call the new territory, they call it pretty much the new territory
Right.
for Russia. When you get down there, you start to realize this is the first time in my life that I have actually seen cities completely destroyed. I'm talking on the Russian side, the new territory here, we'll call the Donbass region, Luhansk, Donetsk, Mariupol. I visited the Avastal, where the massive fight, one of the biggest fights since World War II was. But I'm going to be very clear. This region has suffered dramatically from the sky. I don't think there is enough glass in the world to repair the buildings that have been shattered. And
Right.
I didn't see just shattered military buildings. I saw shattered schools, churches, shopping malls, roads. Um, Walked in parks where there's grenades on the, small little mines all over the park. This is not an area I recommend any viewers traveling to. You probably wouldn't get in there. But I have to tell you that the devastation that people have gone through is not just one-sided here. So I was given the ability to go down there. I have to tell you that in the last couple of weeks. It's been really hard to actually, I don't know how Patrick Lancaster does it, to close his eyes at night, to see what I've seen and to see the destruction. It is, I'll leave it at this, on a biblical portion on, and a lot of that stuff, Cyrus, wasn't from 2022 forward. A lot of that stuff, that infrastructure. And you know what? I did a lot of interviews down there, and one of the main things some of the youth was saying is, we really hope we get our water, more than twice a week back. We haven't had it back since 2014 when the Ukraine government shut it off. So, it's brutal. It's brutal on both sides.
It is. Yeah.
I would love to be able to travel to report on the other side. Unfortunately, for security reasons, I've been told that that's a no-go. So I decided to go down and see this side. I do get my fair amount of the other side on the news because it's pretty, it's out there. Yeah, I'm open to any questions that you got.
No, I mean, I think it's important to understand that it definitely is a two-way street, right? This is a loss for Russia. It's a loss for Ukraine. I mean, it's a devastating conflict that, despite our media telling us that it started in 2022, we have pointed out, and we know that this, I mean, honestly, it goes back to the, fall of the Soviet Union is when kind of this started to happen. And obviously the 2014 was a very, very pivotal time. So, I mean, it's been under war. I mean, Patrick's been reporting on this since 2014, right? So it's an 11-year conflict. And unfortunately, Donald Trump had come in and said, I'm going to be able to solve that within 24 hours. Actually, he did say, I'm going to be able to solve that before my inauguration day on January 20th. We've seen, the recent escalations. We've seen, Ukraine launch a very surprising drone effort, in order to destroy some jets from Russia. I believe
night before peace agreement, by the way.
Yeah, I think the number now, that I think the U.S. State Department has said that the number is less than what was initially reported. But I mean, nonetheless, it was a devastating blow. It definitely. It's a tough one because it's like, what are we doing here, right? What is the end goal, right? What is the end result here? And I mean, war is a difficult situation. I mean, and it really is. I mean, I actually learned a little bit about, Azerbaijan and Armenia. I mean, they had a massive, war that actually.
Patrick covered that too, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, actually, that was an interesting one. So, for people that understand, what happened is in Armenia, there's basically a region in the west, and the western part of Azerbaijan that has always been part of Azerbaijan, but is filled ethnically with Armenians. So both countries are battling over this region. About 30, 40 years ago, the Armenian government took over that region, and it has been a very sore point for the Azerbaijani people. And in 2020, the president launched a war, and within 44 days, they were able to recapture that part. And it has always been internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan by the United Nations, by the United States government, by basically every government in the world. But it's just complicated because, again, Azerbaijan, former Soviet Union member as well. I mean, you have these borders, these conflicts, you have these regions. I mean, we know very well, we've documented this, that these eastern parts of Ukraine, they're all ethnically Russian. They don't want to be part of Ukraine, but yet the territory is considered part of Ukraine. So it's just a bloody conflict, and it's just a loss, and unfortunately, there's just so much bloodshed and destruction, and billions and billions of dollars being spent on this war. So, I mean, as you know, I'm always an advocate of peace. I'm always an advocate of trying to find a solution. I just wish that there is a negotiation that could actually result in a meaningful peace agreement, and that something would get resolved. Unfortunately, Trump has not been able to do that as of yet. Will he be able to? I'm not sure. I do have some interviews going out later this week. We're going to be interviewing a few more people, some generals and some colonels that are going to be sharing their latest updates, from Ukraine. And it's a tough one, but I think it's good, Alex, that you had a chance to go to, Russia and actually see it firsthand, and certainly do that. And I'd be very, very interested to see any videos that you have coming out on that. I know you're probably going to post at some point some videos
Oh
here.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I lost my camera. I'll come
Yeah.
back 1 sec.
Yeah, no worries. No worries, no worries. Well, everybody, I think we've had an amazing stream here. I'm just going to remove Alex here while he gets his camera sorted. But I think we're at a very pivotal time in our world right now. We have this incredible battle between the United States and China that is really heating up. Of course, we have the tariff war. We have negotiations going on with countries around the world. I mean, look at the United States right now. I mean, you've probably seen the big news coming out of LA, with the ICE, protest and actually this incredible movement from the Donald Trump presidency to start attacking immigrants inside of this country. I mean, this is a very unprecedented move for the United States. We've seen Harvard University being attacked. I mean, we've seen we're looking at the situation in Israel, between Israel and Gaza, really starting to heat up again. We're starting to see it's kind of a very troubling world that we live in right now. There's so many, everywhere you look, there's conflicts, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of things going on. We're going to bring back Alex into our stream here. Alex, let's bring us home here. I think we got maybe another 5 minutes here. We'll end out this stream. But I just want to say thank you to our amazing support in the chat. We're over 2,500 people live in the chat, which is incredible. A great turnout as always. I really appreciate you guys. And Alex, I mean, I was just kind of talking about our world right now, that we're in an unprecedented time. We look at the Israel-Gaza conflict. We look at Russia-Ukraine. I mean, look at what's happening in Southern California right now, with these protests and these, National Guard being released, into the public, and a lot of uncertainty right now. So I think, in this times of chaos, we need to keep a cool head. We're certainly going to try to bring you guys the best reports that we can, on the ground around the world. We're traveling, we're trying to do our best to cover it. And I guess my big thing is we're going to shift our focus a little bit to China. Alex, I think there's such a disconnect. I'm going to call out this one YouTube channel called Business Basics, which has been blowing up recently.
Crazy.
It's
just crazy.
It's crazy because of the views that this guy is getting, which is just utter fabrication. I was trying to watch one of the videos, and it's like, well, Chinese citizens have raided a building in Beijing. They've killed, government officials. Everybody in China is protesting on the streets. All the factories are closed down. And it's amazing how much manipulation. I mean, this is to the likes that, I don't even think Gordon Chang would be going down this line and lying at this level. So I kind of feel that, we really need to get on the ground in China and just bring back some truth and reality. I mean, we need to go on a walk and talk, buddy. We need to bring the people back to the streets of China, show them what it's really like. Let's go do some videos. Let's get on the ground in China. So super happy, guys. I'm a week away from getting back to China, and I can't wait to bring this YouTube channel back and show you guys what's really going on.
Cool. And I just pressed play on my my video going out. Yeah, it's rocking.
Okay.
So
fantastic.
it's been amazing. But Cyrus, there's something I wanted to bring up to you. I mean, we are in such a devastating time here for nations around the world here. And I think, China is a country that people need to pay attention to and understand that, this is a country that hasn't been involved in a war in 50 years. So, I think China now is the big boy in the room. I think that if there's any concern from people here, will this escalate? I'm just a little bit concerned about California right now. I have to tell you.
Yeah.
California is a little bit worrisome for me because this is internal, and Americans are very passionate, and they're very passionate about, whether they're political parties, and they will support, to the tune of, disruption in a major city. LA is classic for this. I mean, I've lived through the Rodney King times, the riots in LA, and we have a consortium of people leaving here from China here in a week's time to LA. I told them, look out.
Yeah, definitely. Well, right. Alex, it's been a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much. We're going to leave everybody with our outro, and I want to thank you all for being here. We're going to do more live streams and more shows. Watch out. Go check out Alex's channel right now and watch that video about Tesla. Thank you all for being here, and we'll see you soon.